Hi, I'm Tim Williams. I'm the head litigation attorney here at the firm. In this short video, I'd like to talk about shoulder replacement surgery. So sometimes when a person is injured bad enough, the doctors don't have any choice but to replace their shoulder. Usually, simply resting the shoulder, sometimes adding some hardware to put things back in position and to secure it is all it takes. But in the rare circumstance, the doctors are beyond that. That's just not going to be an option due to the level of injury, and a replacement itself needs to be done. Most people are familiar with knee replacements. This is a similar approach, but involving the shoulder. So looking at the model here, we have the front view of the shoulder, and we'll take away some of the layers, and we can see that, that's a pretty good one, that the shoulder joint itself is actually comprised of your arm bone, that's your humerus. It's the terminal end of your arm bone, which is the ball. Most people know it's a ball and socket joint, so the ball is here up the end of your humerus. And the socket is actually part of your shoulder blade. So the shoulder blade comes out and creates that socket portion of your shoulder joint, and the humerus has the ball, and the ball goes into the socket, and that's what gives you the maneuverability. So we can rotate this around. There's the back side of it, get rid of those nerves, and that's what it looks like in the back. Now usually if you have a shoulder injury, whether it's AC injury, which is way up here, you have a rotator cuff tear, those are generally what we see in terms of shoulder injuries. Sometimes, however, you have injury to the bony surface itself. That often involves the gliding surfaces that are inside the joint, and once those surfaces are gone, there's not a lot you can do other than replace the joint itself. Or you can have complex fractures within the shoulder joint itself, and those fractures are so complex that they can't repair them with hardware in a manner that's going to be serviceable to the individual. So the only option at that point, or the best option perhaps, is to replace a shoulder joint. So this is how a shoulder joint is replaced. So first, you have the nice normal motion of the shoulder. You can see this is the gliding surface here. It's like a Teflon material that's at the end of that ball, at the end of the humerus. And then you have a similar surface on the back side. So in the cup, you have a gliding surface, and then on the ball you have a gliding surface. Those two surfaces come together, and it's a nice smooth motion so long as the person isn't injured. Now it can happen either through, you can see there, you can see this crushing, so the joint itself moved in. So the ball portion of the joint moved into the socket and started crushing and fraying that gliding tissue. And this video is going to go well beyond that. It's actually going to remove a lot of that tissue. But it's the same circumstance where you get that gliding tissue damaged. It's nothing that can be easily repaired. And pretty soon, if it's severe enough, you're going to have bone-on-bone movement, which is obviously pretty painful. So there we have the joint itself, the ball end of the joint went into the socket. The gliding surface is now damaged, so they've removed it from view because it's no longer functional. Sometimes people can have in addition to that, some osteophytic changes, meaning some bone spurring that's already there that leads them to be more susceptible to developing symptoms with this type of injury. And the doctors are then left with the option of simply replacing it, because you cannot replace that gliding surface back on. There's not a material you can recoat that bone with. So what they do is they take, and this is the traditional shoulder replacement here, so they're going to take the end of that humerus, that ball portion of that joint, they're literally going to cut it off. Okay, so that's the first step. They cut that off. They then drill a hole down into the top of the arm bone, and then they widen it out to create a particular, they use a tool to widen it. It creates a rectangular insert. It's very specific in terms of the depth and the width and whatnot. You'll see why here in a second. And then on the ball, or the socket side, excuse me, they take that off too, and they're going to put some screws in there. They're going to screw 3 holes, and then that's your new gliding surface. So that's sort of your new socket itself. So they took the old material out. It was ruined. It was shoddy, and they put the new material in, which is nice and new and smooth. And then remember the hole I said is very specific. This is why you have that post with a specific shape. That post is going to fit perfectly into that hole that they created. Just like that, they secure it into place, and then they screw the ball head back onto the top of that. So they put the post in, they now screw the ball on top, and now you see it's a similar anatomical structure to what we saw initially, what the good Lord above gave us. You have the ball here, you have the socket there, and the two are going to go together and create the shoulder joint. Now, this simply shows that there's a bony healing process that takes place. This is why the doctors don't have you do anything with your shoulder shortly after the surgery, because your bones are literally healing up into the metal material to secure it into place. So this is why you're going to be in an arm sling for a while. And then now the bone is put back in, is back in a position. You can see that the socket is relatively similar to what we saw before, and is now functional. Now there's a different approach too. Sometimes you can have what's called a reverse shoulder replacement, and the only difference there is rather than the ball being inserted back to the top of the arm bone, they create a cup there, and they put a ball joint into the end of the into where the socket used to be. So now the socket becomes the ball, and then what used to be the ball becomes a socket, and so your arm it's the same functionality. It's just a reversal of the socket in the ball position. So that is essentially the nitty-gritty on shoulder replacement surgery. Again, it's pretty infrequently seen. Not many people need it, but those that do are certainly thankful that they have this option, because the alternative is not a life to be lived.
If you've been injured and need help, Dwyer Williams Charkoss Attorneys will get you the settlement you deserve. Experience gets results.